This is Buying Miami, Life, Love, and Real Estate, and I am your host, JoAnne Jones. I'm a second-generation Miamian, and I am obsessed with real estate, and also living your best life here in the best city, Miami. Okay, we're back for another episode of Buying Miami, Life, Love, and Real Estate. And today we have one of the contributors of the book, Buying Miami, Alison Rolfs. Is that how you say last name, Rolfs?
Yeah, Rolfs.
Yeah, Rolfs. And we're going to talk about the riveting topic of home inspections today.
Yes,
Riveting.
yes, it is. It's a very interesting subject.
We joke, but it is kind of, things can go south during the home inspection.
They sure can.
And you've seen it time and time again. So we're going to get into it. And just for our listeners, they may not understand or know why or how the home inspection affects the contract, but it's once the contract is signed and we have a fully executed contract and we have what's called an effective date, which is the date that the contract is fully executed, we have an inspection period. And in the state of Florida, we write contracts on as-is with the right to inspect. So what that means is that the buyers can... the seller is selling the property as is. They're not obligated to fix anything. But to that end, the buyers have the right to inspect the property. And if there's anything within the inspection period that they don't like or they're not comfortable, they can cancel the contract and get back their initial deposit. So it kind of begs to explain the next thing about the deposit, where when you have a fully executed contract, usually the buyer is going to put in a deposit within 3 days, and then we're going to get through the inspection period, and then they're going to put down their second deposit. I usually write the contracts for the second deposit to be due 1 day after the inspection period, because there's no sense in putting down the full deposit until you know for sure if you're going to go forward with the purchase. So the inspection period is a critical time. And I mean, other realtors hate it when I tell buyers this, but I'm just like, throw in an offer and then decide if you want to buy it. And, some buyers are so afraid to put in an offer. They think that if they put in an offer, that's it. They're going to end up living, they're going to spend Christmas in that house. And that's not how it works, man. You put the offer in, and there's a lot of hoops that we have to go through before you find yourself at the closing table. And the inspection period is a time where you can get a lot of your questions answered. Like, oh my God, buyers, they ask me like 1,000 questions. And it's like, how I'm not going to curse, but because I'm very enthusiastic and I've had some caffeine. So I almost wanted to curse, but I'm not, because it's not professional. But how the heck am I supposed to know all these questions? I don't know, but we will find it out during the inspection period. And if there's anything shady, anything that you don't like, you could cancel the contract and get your money back. So, the first thing, usually like within hours of having an effective date, I call Alison. And Alison and I have been working together for years now, like at least the last 5 years we've been working together.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And I like her because she's a woman. And it's a male-dominated industry as far as inspectors. She's the only woman inspector that I know. So I always call her to just support the cause. And she's a small business owner. And so for me personally, she checks a lot of boxes. And she's a cool chick, and I like her. And we have mutual friends from like childhood. So it's true, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We go back a while.
Yeah. So then what happens? So I call Alison and we do the inspection. Now, when what is the inspection? Why do I need it? There's a few things. First of all, what the inspector does is they go in and they're going to check all the major systems of the property, yes. Whether if it's a condo or a single family home or a townhouse. So they're going to check the electrical, the plumbing. They're going to make sure all the appliances work. They're going to check all the windows, the window treatments. They're going to tell you if there's a crack in the tile. They have a pretty extensive checklist that they go through. Yeah, a long checklist.
Big one is the roof.
The roof.
Yeah, of course.
Except on condos. You can't check the roof on a condo, right?
Yeah. On condo, it's not so important, the roof, but on single-family homes and townhomes, the roof is a major issue because even in condos, if they're on the top level and there is an issue with the roof, it's going to come into their condo.
Right.
Which I've seen happen. Even here on the beach, the concrete, it gets old, it can leak. And so some condos have suffered water damage because even though it's it's community roof, they don't own the roof, it's the responsibility of the condo to repair it. Their interior can still suffer damage.
Right. So we always get an inspection with this inspection report. And if you're financing, your lender is going to require, the lender is going to require you to get insurance, home insurance, right? Because the property is a collateral of the loan, and so they want it to be insured. And your insurance broker is going to need the 4 points and the wind mitigation in order to quote your insurance, and that comes from the inspection. So when somebody goes and gets an inspection, I usually order the inspection of the property, the 4 points, and the wind mitigation if they're financing. If they're paying cash, then they don't need the 4 points and the
They do, because this is a huge investment. So we don't want to assume that they're not going to get insurance. They're not going to insure it.
That's true.
$750,000 home, $1 million home just because they paid cash. They still want insurance.
Of course,
so they still need to get the report. I provide them for all full inspections. I provide the 4-point wind mitigation regardless for no extra charge because if they don't need it, they have it. If they have it, they need it. And if they don't need it, they still have it.
Well, it's like one of those classic things that it's better to need it and not, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Exactly.
Like a tampon. It's true. It's true. And we digress. All right. So this is
a true woman's show.
It really is. It really is. Anyways, I try to infuse humor in it because we got to make it interesting. But what I wanted to ask you about is if your sister or your family member was going to buy a house and they're going to have to get an inspection. What are the pro tips? What are things that consumers really need to know about within their inspection? Like, do you have a lot of buyers go to the inspection with you, or do you normally do it by yourself and then you just send the report? Or
it's half and half. I have buyers who want to be there. They want to ask questions. They want to get. Sometimes it's the first time they're seeing the property. They could be from out of state. They're flying in. They want to see the property. Sometimes they just they stay at home and they just trust the report. The report is filled with pictures and very detailed, and so they don't need to come. But sometimes they want to come, and I welcome that. Sure. Because they have questions to ask, and I understand. Yeah. But because there's a lot of features in a home that can that are fixable, but they can deny insurance for.
Like what?
Well, the roof. You might want to buy a house and say, okay, great, I'm going to buy this house. Got this contract signed, and yay. And then we find out that the roof is damaged. There's leaks. There's a bunch of broken or cracked tiles. The electrical panel is old or faulty. The plumbing is leaking or old and outdated. And then all of a sudden, they can't get insurance for that dream home anymore.
Or it has to be fixed before closing.
Exactly, it has to be fixed before closing.
And that can delay the closing because the insurance or the roof needs to be fixed, and then it has to come back out and reassessed, and then they can move forward with it. So back to my first question, though. What are some of the things, because we have you here, you're here for the next 20 minutes, and what do you wish you could tell buyers? Like, what do they need to know? What's the most important thing?
I would like to tell them that nothing's perfect.
True.
To go in it with a grain of salt and sometimes I'll have buyers say, oh, but what about this little scratch here on the wall? I say, that's cosmetic. You can fill that with spackle. Yeah. Oh, what about this little dent here? It's about the big picture. It's just a home that you can see yourself living in for the next 20 years, raising a family in. If you don't like the cabinets, those can be changed. Yeah. The main concerns are the structure, the foundation, the roof, even the air conditioner can be replaced. Right. That's a few $1,000s. You won't break the bank. Yeah. So I like for a buyer to be aware that things can be fixed and nothing's written in stone.
Yeah, and things are going to be faulty. Like, you're going to have a cracked tile, or there's going to be little things. But I think it's the most important things is making sure that The electrical is sound. The plumbing is sound.
Absolutely.
What are some things like in a condo or a townhouse that are like big red flags for you? Like if you saw this, you wouldn't buy it.
It's hard to say because, like I said, most things can be fixed. But
Right.
as far as a condo goes, depends on the year of the condo. Older condos have older pipes. They have older electrical panels that may need to be replaced. Maybe pest infestations in condos because, especially with shared space like a condo, if your neighbor has, isn't the cleanest and has roaches, then they're going to come over to your property as well.
Right.
So keeping an eye out for the community that you're in is important for condos. And townhouse is kind of the same, but essentially a townhouse is a house. It's just attached on both sides to another one. But a townhouse goes through all the same issues that a single-family home does. It has its own attic space. It has its own roof. Sometimes the roof is shared, but the roof is right above them, and it can leak. It has, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC systems, just like a regular house does.
So, all right. And then what about for houses? What are some things that you are like, oh, well, this is gonna be a deal killer?
For houses, the deal killer for me could be excessive termite damage.
Yeah.
In South Florida, we have drywood termites, and their damage could go unchecked for decades before people even realize that it's happening. Especially because it's hidden in the attic. A lot of people don't go up into their attic.
Sure.
The walls are concrete blocks, so they don't see the damage there. It's not until you go up into the attic that you start seeing all the trusses are eaten away and stuff like that. So that could be a deal breaker because the repair for a termite damage can be very costly.
Indeed. Yeah, I could see how that could be a deal breaker. And then what happens is once you get the inspection report, you have the option at that point to, if there's like a lot of things that need to be fixed, you can negotiate to get a credit from the seller at closing. You could, if you're uncomfortable with the report, the buyer can cancel the contract within the inspection period and get their deposit back. Or you can just kind of know what the disposition is of the property and all the little things you could live with, and you decide to move forward. Or actually, in a case right now, I have a condo under contract. We got the inspection report, and there were little things that the buyer asked the seller to fix prior to closing. And I've had the joy of meeting AC repairman, appliance repair guy. I had to get all the sliding glass doors, rolling perfectly. But yeah, the seller could agree to fix some things in order for the buyer to feel comfortable moving forward.
Right. That's ideal. If everything's fixed before you move in. But I'd like to look at I could tell buyers to look at the inspection report as a to-do list for you.
Yeah.
You could have the seller fix it, but then you don't know who the seller hired. You don't know that contractor.
Right.
Maybe the seller had, Uncle Joe do the work, a handyman patch repair, instead of having a professional contractor do it. So it could be a little iffy, but as long as you know that if they had licensed professional contractors do the work, then it could be acceptable.
Right.
But I don't like to have buyers go in too wholeheartedly of, I want everything fixed before I move in. I say it's a to-do list. Check them off as you move into the home.
Yeah. And I mean, from I work with buyers and I work with sellers. And sometimes if I can convince the seller to do it, I have them do an inspection report before I list the house.
Pre-sale inspection.
Pre-sale inspection, because even if they don't want to fix everything, we disclose it, and sometimes we'll provide it to the buyer, and we're like, hey, look, this is everything that's going on in the house. Yeah. And so when you make your offer, make sure that you take into consideration all the things that this house comes with, and you don't try to do an inspection and then try to come back and renegotiate your price. Right. So I've done it on both sides. So what I always like to know is, I have another question. 4 points and wind mitigation. Can you talk about that? Because it's like one of those things that I always order it, but I don't really understand what it is, what it entails, why do the insurance companies need it, and what could skyrocket an insurance report if this 4 points and wind mitigation doesn't come in? Like, where does that need to be in order to have a normal insurance quote?
Sure, I get this question a lot.
Yeah.
They say, what is this? What do I need these for?
Yeah.
Well, so the 4-point report, the inspection report, goes over the four main conditions of the house: the electrical, the plumbing, the roof, and the air conditioning systems.
Okay.
Those are components that can leak and can set fire.
Okay, yeah.
Biggest payouts for insurance companies are water damage and fire damage. So they want to make sure these components are safe and sound before investing their money,
Right.
to insure a home. So that gets you homeowners insurance. It assesses the insurability of your home. The wind mitigation, which is required if you have a mortgage in South Florida because of hurricanes. That's for your windstorm policy. The wind mitigation gets you discounts on your windstorm policy if your home has certain features to make it more susceptible or more resilient to wind, right? Because if you have hurricane shutters and a brand new roof, you shouldn't be paying the same as your neighbor down the street who doesn't have shutters and has a 30-year-old roof.
True.
So these certain features are in your discounts. So the wind mitigation you definitely want to get for your windstorm policy. And I've heard I don't know exactly what the discounts are. I've heard there can be as much as 50 or 60% off the windstorm policy. Things that can escalate your insurance costs are maybe old or outdated panels, electrical panels, because they have a higher risk of fire. Some panels out there, insurance companies won't insure at all.
Like what?
There's a specific brand of panel. It's called the Challenger brand panel. Challenger. They've been known for failure. They're known for overheating, and the breakers won't trip when prompted, so they result in fire. So some insurance companies won't insure those. Some may insure them, but they might charge you a higher premium.
So the Challenger brand is quite challenging, you would say.
Exactly.
Yes, it is. They live up to their name.
Right, yeah.
And then what else? So you got like an old electrical panel, a weak roof, an old roof, windows from 1985 that haven't been updated.
Right.
Maybe a house that doesn't have any like old windows and no hurricane shutters or nothing.
Right. They're going to be paying a lot more for insurance.
Yeah.
Exactly. And recently, Citizens, who is the major insurer for Florida, they just changed their policy. They used to insure homes that had a roof that had at least 3 more useful years on it. Now they've just raised that to it has to have at least 5 useful years left on it.
Yeah. They just make it harder and harder.
They do.
It's killing me softly.
So that roof that you thought it has a 20-year roof span, lifespan, I mean, you thought you could change it in 20 years. Well, no. You have to change that after 15 years. So they're kind of cutting 5 years off your roof.
Yeah.
So that's also another consideration when buying a house. How much longer is my insurance going to last before I have to make updates? Because it could be a really surprising cost that you weren't prepared for.
Yeah. I always try to get the insurance quotes right away as soon as I have a fully executed contract because it can be scary sometimes. People don't, and especially it's like a moving target now. Like in this, we're recording this in the end of May 2023, and it's just the insurance rates are going up.
They're skyrocketing.
Like skyrocketing. So
I've had people who are, near tears because their rates have doubled or some of them have tripled.
Oh.
And they just can't afford it anymore.
No, in my building alone, we have a meeting at the end of the month to talk about an assessment for the increased insurance. Like I got to pay an extra $2,000. I'm not really happy about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't be either.
No, it's a bunch of hooey. Okay, and then so the 4 points is the electrical, the roof,
the plumbing,
and
the air conditioning,
and the air
heating
conditioner
systems.
and the heating system. So it's always good to have a newer AC.
Yeah.
You would say. Okay.
Or it doesn't have to be newer. It just has to be functional.
Right.
Air conditioners can last anywhere from like 10 years to some 20 years. As long as they're working properly, they're not leaking, they're well maintained. It's important to maintain your equipment. Because the better you maintain it, the longer it lasts.
I know. I walk in and it's like people don't change their air filters. I just don't. I'm baffled. Like put an alarm in your calendar to change it once a month, or get the 3-month ones and change it. But change them because that also affects the quality of the air inside of your.
It's the
in your
simplest
home.
thing.
It's the simplest thing. I mean, I live in an older building, and and our ACs are super sensitive, so we got to service them every month. If I don't, I'm not in a good situation. Okay, so the other thing I'm always interested in is like what are some of the horror stories that you have encountered? Because like for me, real estate, it's always an adventure. It's always an adventure. Every time I go on showings, like the other day I had to show 6 units in a building in Edgewater, and it was just like one to the other, and it's just you never know what you're going to walk into. You never know what you're going to see. So, and it's funny because the buyers, it's like their first time or second, they don't do this every day. But for us, we're professionals and we're like in and out of buildings all day long. So what are some of the things what's a funny thing that has happened, or things that like has really shocked you, or also other things that like kind of surprised you and ended up being a deal killer?
I can remember this, specifically, this woman came to me because she was going to buy an investment property. And I don't know if she even ever saw the inside of the house. Maybe she'd only seen the outside. But we get there, and the laundry room there's about a few inches of water in it. Oh. And there's a drain in the middle of the floor. This appeared to be an abandoned home. Or maybe a home that tenants were forced to leave out. So it was evident that because the standing water and where there's a drain is that it's perhaps an old collapsed pipe, or material was shoved down the pipe to so that it wouldn't drain. And then, so I pointed that out to her. I'm like, well, that's got to be repaired or replaced. And then when I went up into the attic, termite damage. It was so bad that I could just crush each rafter with my hand. And when I pointed it out to her, I didn't even have to go into the attic. You could just see it around the little attic catch frame. And when she saw it, her eyes opened up. I said, look, this all has to be replaced.
All of it?
All of it.
Yeah.
They literally have to take all the rafters, all the beams down, and replace everything.
Wow. That was pretty bad.
Yeah. And,
okay, so my other question is, in condos...
Oh, she pulled out of the deal, by the way.
I'm sure she did. That's why you have to get an inspection. You have to. I mean... It really, you got to know what you're getting into. And besides that, like, you need to get this for your insurance, but you just need to know what you're getting into. But for you, what have you seen have been like, oh, when you see this, it's a deal killer? For condo. Let's start with condos. What are condo deal killers?
I really can't think of any.
Come on, Alison. Give us the dirt.
Maybe poor neighbors.
Neighbors.
I mean, not poor. I mean, like, financially. I mean, like bad or...
Yeah, bad neighbors.
Right,
Like, they see something within the community. During the inspection period, they see some things within the community that turn them off.
Yeah, maybe loud music or whatever. For the most part, condos are pretty well kept. For the most part, they're structurally sound. They're almost all concrete. Concrete floors, concrete ceilings, concrete walls. It's just the interior that needs to be repaired sometimes.
Yeah.
So as far as condos go, most condos that I have inspected are in pretty fair shape.
They're basic.
Yeah, they're very basic. So the repairs are easy.
And if it's some things are the issue of the building, and some things are issues of the owner, but a lot of the major things would be well, I guess it depends on what you consider major, but at least you have the support of the building to help you with some repairs, or will work with you should something come up that you need. But what's interesting is that a lot of times buyers don't understand what's the responsibility of the building and what's the responsibility of the owners. And really, anything on the interior, would you say, is the responsibility of the owners? However, what about like when you have a leak? I guess it would depend on where the leak is coming from, because if the leak is coming from the AC unit of the unit above or below you, then that's the owner's responsibility. But if it's the plumbing, then it's the building's responsibility.
It depends if it's the plumbing. If it's let's say it's the above unit shower pan is leaking. Then it's that owner's responsibility.
But the shower pan is underneath, right?
Yeah, that's
underneath the shower.
It's right underneath the shower. It's what catches water if it happens to leak. Now, if it's the waste pipe from the shower pan to the exterior, which is community property, then I believe it would be the condo association, the condo itself's responsibility.
Yeah.
But if it is the unit owner above, you better hope that the unit owner, that it's there.
Yeah.
Or that the unit is owned.
Yeah.
It could just be leaking, and then vacant.
Yeah, no, that could be an issue. Now, the other thing I want to know is, both of us are on the front line of real estate, right? Mm-hmm. Like you work in real estate every day, but you're on a different line.
Right.
We're both on the front line, but you're in a different. So how is the market? I always like to ask people this, like, how do you feel like, it's a seller's market or a buyer's market, or how have you seen the market change even from the beginning to the year to where we're at now? Are you busy as balls, or are you?
I view it as a seller's market for sure.
It's a seller's market, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's going to stop anytime soon.
Well, it's interesting because there's a macro market and there's a micro market. So, like, people always ask me, like, how's the market? And I'm like, well, which market? Are you talking about Pinecrest? Or are you talking about Edgewater? Yeah. Are you talking about Miami Beach Homes? Because there's some buildings in Miami Beach right now that, like, there's 35 units on the market for sale in that building, because of something that's changed within the building. So in that one, it might be a seller's market, but in that one particular building, it's a buyer's market because there's so much inventory, right? Mm-hmm. But then if you look at like single family homes on Miami Beach, it's, what would you say? I think it's more of a seller's market right now because there's not a lot of inventory.
I think of most single family homes all over South Florida, or it's a seller's market.
Yeah.
Especially after the pandemic, all the people who lived in condos really want to get out of the condo.
Yeah.
I know my husband does.
Yeah.
I love condo living. But.
I like condo living too. Are you guys looking for a house?
Yeah, we're going to start looking soon.
How very interesting. Do you have a realtor?
I do now.
Do you need a realtor? We'll have to talk offline about that. I would say it's probably more of a seller's market. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I don't think that's going to die. Everyone wants to live here. It's paradise.
Yeah,
we live where people vacation, and everyone wants to live here.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to continue being a seller's market. I don't think the prices are going to go down.
No.
They might plateau, but then they'll probably start raising again. So now's the time to buy before it goes up again.
I think so. And people always think, they're like, oh, how's the market? Is it this? It's that? And people don't most people don't buy because it's a seller's market, or
right.
They don't buy or sell because it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. People have a life event, something happens, and they are forced to make a move, and they pretty much enter whatever market it is at that time. So if they're a buyer and it's a buyer market, great. If it's a seller and it's a seller's market, great. But people buy and sell real estate based on life events, not on how well the market is doing.
That's right. It's like having kids.
Yeah, it is. Like I have buyers right now that they're just tired of being renters, and they're concerned about the higher interest rates. But I tell them, I go, listen, just lock it up now. Buy something now, right? Because inevitably prices are going to go up in Miami. Unless we have an unforeseen event that we, can't even anticipate is going to adversely affect the market. Like you said, we live where people vacation. So Miami is always and will continue to be a hot market to live in. Mm-hmm. But I say just, lock it up now. And at least you're not paying rent and throwing that money down the drain.
Right. You can always refinance later.
And you could refinance. Exactly. That's what I say. Refinance. It's so funny. I have these people calling me all the time about like my mortgage, and they're like, oh, do you want to refinance your mortgage? I'm like, bitch, I got a 3% rate right now. Can you beat that? I doubt it. I know it's I did well. But again, I was like everybody else. I was tired of renting and I wanted to buy, and I just entered the market where it was. And thank God I was able to procure my unit before the interest rates, went high. Mm-hmm. But yeah, don't be scared. People sometimes are scared, and it's a big move. I get it. I understand.
People always ask me, is this a good investment? Should I buy this house or this condo? Mm-hmm. And I have to explain, well, first of all, I don't know what your investment is. I'm not on that side of it. Mm-hmm. And then second of all, far be it from me to tell anybody not to buy property in Miami.
No, please don't be a deal killer, for God's sakes. But I think...
it's not like it's not going to go up in value.
Well, yeah, for sure it's going to go up. Well, not for sure, but statistically, based on history, it's going to go up in value. But I think people really want to know, like, is this house in good enough condition?
Sure,
is
yeah.
what they want to know. Is it in good condition? Am I buying a money pit? Basically.
Right. And luckily, my reports have a little cost of repairs at the end of it. So it kind of gives them an idea of what it could cost to repair. And that's just for major concerns. New roof, $30,000.
Well, that's why we look at that. Like, as a buyer's agent, I look at that and I see if we are going into discussions of asking for a credit, we look at that, the estimated cost of repairs, and to try to analyze what the credit should be, if any. So that's it. Well, listen, I mean, what else you got? Any other material for us to share?
No, it put me on the spot now.
I know, the spotlight's on you. Come up with material. No, it's just one of those things where it's like this. I could explain to you what a broken arm is, but until you've broken your arm, you really don't know what it is. So as it is with inspections and with buyers, you could read the book and you can listen to this podcast and you can understand a general overview of what to expect in an inspection, what it's for, what you need it for. But until you actually go through the process yourself, then you'll understand on a visceral level what it is.
It really is. It just gives you an idea of the current condition of all the systems of the home.
Yeah.
So it gives you a more in-depth view of the investment you're making at this time.
Exactly. So
the good and the bad.
Yeah, the good and the bad. I remember when I bought my property, and I think I just got a 4 points and a wind mitigation. You did it for me. I didn't get a whole inspection because I knew I was going to have to gut everything anyways. So
right, yeah.
I kind of am like,
I have those people. Yeah. I'll have people, they get a full inspection. They say, "Oh, we're just going to gut it anyway." I'm like, "Why are you getting a full inspection then? Like, why don't we just do the insurance reports and then go from there?"
Like, you're going to get all new plumbing. You're going to get a new electrical panel. You're going to buy all new appliances. You don't need a whole new inspection.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. if you're gonna level it or you're going to renovate everything, what do you
right.
Whatever.
That is the only time that I will say, you don't need the full inspection.
Yeah.
Other than that, you always need the full inspection.
Exactly. So, how's business right now? Are you super busy? Are you not that busy? Or
I am super busy.
Good.
Yeah.
I know. We tried to make this appointment like a couple weeks ago, and you got a job. So.
Actually, I have 3 appointments today. I did 2 early this morning, and I'm heading to another one this afternoon.
Okay. Well, look at you. Okay. Well, that's good. See, it's if the inspectors are super busy, that's good. At least whether if it's a seller's market or a buyer's market, transactions are happening.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then when you do an inspection, what is the normal turnaround time to get that report back for the most part?
For me, it's next day.
Next day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not. I do the next business day. Maybe not end of business day.
Right.
But you'll get it tomorrow sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, Alison has Rolfs inspection. I'm going to put the links below in our little detailed of the podcast. And I thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me. This was a real pleasure.
It's cool, right? It's kind of fun. I just like to have professionals come in and like tell buyers what they want to know. Or like what you want buyers to know, the most important things, because buying a property, buying a home, especially if it's your first time, it's scary and you don't want to get blindsided. And, that's why I wrote the book. That's why I have this podcast, to just kind of, maybe take some of the fear out of it, and also make sure that as a buyer, you surround yourself with professionals. One of the hardest things, or like lessons for me to learn, and I really didn't learn it until my 40s, but is that smart people don't know everything, but they have a team around them that does. So as a smart person, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know every aspect of buying, but you do need to be smart enough to choose the people that you surround yourself with. Like, make sure you have a good title company or real estate attorney. Make sure that you have a good realtor. And usually your first contact is going to be that realtor. And you want someone who is been in the business for a long time, that is educated, that has a book of business to refer you to. Like a lot of times, like I refer my clients to their real estate attorney, to their inspector. You've done numerous inspections for me. to like different repairs that they need. So, when I was growing up and as a young adult, I was so embarrassed that I didn't know how to do everything. Like I didn't know how to manage money well, and I didn't know how to do this, and I didn't know how to do that. And I felt like a loser because I didn't know how. And so it was hard for me to reach out for help.
Sure, yeah.
And then I realized like, all the richest, smartest people have like a committee or a team of people around them that advise them. And once I kind of realized like it's okay that I don't know how to do everything, and I could humble myself to ask for help and get trusted advisors around me, then it took a lot of pressure off. Like I took a lot of pressure off of myself.
Absolutely. You can't do it all on your own.
You really can't. But like when you're a young punk, you think, when I was young, I was ignorant and arrogant. Mm-hmm. So I knew everything. I wanted to do everything. I didn't want to ask my parents for help. I didn't want to ask anybody for help. But then I would make horrible mistakes, and they were just, I learned the hard way. I really learned the hard way in life. And so now I don't really do anything without talking to somebody about it for the most part. Like I run stuff by people, whether if it's a financial decision or a life decision, or I'm going to be traveling, or I just don't try to do things by myself anymore. And it makes life a lot easier.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, it's true. All right, my dear. Well, thank you so much for coming in. That does it. We got another episode in the books here, Buying Miami, Life, Love, and Real Estate. And let's see. What do I have to tell everybody? You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast and Google Podcast and Amazon's podcast. Like you could find us pretty much anywhere you look for podcasts. You can find this and these episodes. So check us out. There's also buyingmiami.net. And Alison, what's your website? Do you have one?
Yeah, I do.
You do. I know you do.
It's Rolfs-HI, as in homeinspections.com.
And how do you spell Rolfs?
ROL, F like in Frank, S like in Sam.
Okay. All right. And then listen, if you guys want to use Alison and you can't find her with that information that we just provided, you could always look her up. You can find her through me, and also you're in my my referral section of the book.
Right, yes.
The I Got a Guy. The I Got a Guy. I named it that section because I always find myself going. They're like, "Hey, JoAnne, do you have a referral for this? And I'm like, "Yeah, I got a guy. I got a guy." So
it's important to have a guy.
I got a guy. I got a lot of guys.
But this one's a gal.
Yeah. But yeah, I got a girl too. I got guys, I got girls, I got what you need. Okay. All right, we're good. I think that's a wrap. You got anything else? No. You got to go do an inspection. Shocker.
I do, yeah.
Shocker. All right, then. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And we'll see you next time.